Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Folks, we got a great show for you. Let's first talk about what was said, what was demanded, what is going to be next for Ukraine. As Ukrainian President Zelensky speaks to Congress this morning, we'll share with you a little bit of what he had to say and break it all down. Also, Wells Fargo has approved less than half of many applications, mortgage applications, primarily from Black mortgage homeowners. What's the implication? We'll be checking in with CRA Baltimore that's looking to reform the banking system across the country. Later, we'll talk about how Senate has officially approved daylight savings time as a permanent time. What does that mean for you and me and for our pockets? We got that and a whole lot more, so stay with us. It's all coming at you right here on The Culture, only on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the show this afternoon. We got a lot to get to, so let's jump right into it. President Vladimir Zelensky spoke to the members of Congress this morning as he put out there his plea for President Joe Biden to be the leader of peace. Now, the Ukrainian president has spoken from the capital city of Kyiv in Ukraine, where Russia is still dropping bombs and dropping missiles on the on that part of the country and nearing in on the closer part of the capital city in Ukraine. Now, the president had reached out to Congress looking for peace and for military aid. And out of that presentation and his remarks, President Biden responded saying that he was going to commit at least $1 billion in aid to Ukraine. Now, I want to, in a few moments, we'll be joined by Culture Crew member Nira Muhammad to provide some insight on this whole situation. But before we go to her, I want to share with you just a little bit of what President Zelensky had to say to members of Congress. Check this out.
Today, it's not enough to be the leader of the nation. Today, it takes to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Peace in your country doesn't depend anymore only on you and your people. It depends on those next to you, on those who are strong. Strong doesn't mean weak. Strong is brave and ready to fight for the life of his citizens and citizens of the world, for human rights, for freedom, for the right to live decently and to die when your time comes, and not when it's wanted by someone else, by your neighbor. Today, the Ukrainian people are defending not only Ukraine, we are fighting for the values of Europe and the world, sacrificing our lives in the name of the future. That's why today the American people are helping not just Ukraine, but Europe and the world to keep the planet alive, to keep justice in history. Now I'm almost 45 years old. Today my age stopped when the hearts of more than 100 children stopped beating. I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death. And this is my main mission as the leader of my people, great Ukrainians. And as the leader of my nation, I'm addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the nation, of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
That was Ukrainian President Zelensky giving, and that was just a few moments of what he had to say earlier today to the members of Congress. Folks, President Zelensky covered a lot of areas in his speech, really drawing upon our history in this country, from everything from 9/11 to Pearl Harbor, and also drawing and asking for the United States to step in, as you heard him say, for United States and for President Joe Biden to be the leader of peace. He also talked about making Ukrainian skies a no-fly zone. He said, this is a terror Europe has not seen for 80 years, and we're asking for an answer to this terror from this world, from the world. Is that a lot to ask, to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine to save people? Is this too much to ask? A no-fly zone. Russia would not be able to terrorize our cities. And he also asked that more sanctions are placed on Ukraine, as we've been telling you here, and Brother Roland's been talking about, and many reports have been saying that the sanctions are really suffocating the economic vitality of Russia. And so President Zelensky is asking for new sanctions. He said that new sanctions are needed constantly every week until the Russian military machine stops. Restrictions are needed for everyone on whom this unjust regime is based. All politicians in the Russian Federation who remain in their offices and do not cut ties with those who are responsible for the aggression against Ukraine, from the State Duma members upward. I want to bring in culture crew member Nira Muhammad, who is an author, and she is the host of Queen Talks with Nira Muhammad, and to give us her insight about this whole situation. Nira, thank you so much, dear, for checking in. It's always good to have you.
Hey, Farajii, it's always great to be on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing right now. Just to, I kind of just went over just a few points. The biggest point is that in this address that President Zelensky gave, he was really not just asking for military aid, but he was really pulling on the emotional heartstrings of Congress members, really putting it out there, reminding us about everything from some of the great tragedies of this history of this country, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, asking President Biden to be the leader of the world that advocates for peace. What do you make of all of this?
To be honest, as I was listening to him speak, all I could think about was the Africans, the Indians, and the Asians who were unjustly treated in Ukraine during this time. While we've been looking at the Ukrainian people, and while they have been wanting justice from everyone from around the world, they want rallying cries. They've been taken in by all of their neighbors when they flee the Ukraine. I can't help but to not care anymore. At first, I took a completely different approach. At first, I was team, let's help Ukraine. But once I started seeing those pictures of what has been happening to Black and brown and yellow people over in Ukraine, I honestly don't care anymore. I think that they are racist people. And I think that as Black people, as a Black woman, I have no say in what goes on there. I did care before, because as a person, I genuinely care about what happens in the world. I believe that no one's freedom should be infringed upon. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that he said. But as I was sitting there, I wondered, does this only apply to white people?
And I mean, when you look at a situation, one of the big, I would say one of the outcomes for this whole conflict is the impact that it's making, not just on the Russian people, not on the Ukrainian people, it's on the American public. I mean, from everything from gas prices to all types of, like you're saying, it creates a level of division among the American people, because we're being told one thing and then something else is happening. And it puts everybody, I think it puts a lot of countries in a very hard position, where we have to internally ask ourselves, okay, what are my values in this conflict, or what do I want to advocate for? I mean, that's what it sounds like, that the space that you're in as well, that you've taken some time.
I genuinely, I would like to see President Biden address it. I want to see other European leaders, African leaders. I would like to see world leaders address the racism that has been taking place in the Ukraine. And I want to hear the president of Ukraine address the racism. I want to hear him address why police officers were beating black and brown people, why they were forcing them off of buses, why they were leaving them out in the cold and in long lines for days. That's what I want to know, because I was all team Ukraine before I saw what was happening. And now, to be honest, I really have checked out of what's going on in the Ukraine. Yes, it does impact us in America. And so we do, to a certain degree, we do have to be involved because, yes, our gas prices are skyrocketing, not just our gas prices, our food, so many different things. All of, we're dealing with inflation like crazy here in America. But I still want to see something be said for the black and brown people. It's all over media. So why are our leaders not addressing it? Or maybe I've just missed something because I've been checking out and teaching, and once I'm teaching, that kind of checks me out of life.
Right.
But when I get off, I want to stare at a wall. But honestly, like, who's gonna address it? Who is gonna talk about the fact that even in the midst of this crisis, black and brown people are still being treated like we're 3/5 of human beings still in 2022?
Yeah.
These are students who were there to be doctors at that, medical students, engineering students. These aren't, these are some serious black folk, intelligent black and brown people. And this is how they're being treated.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that. I need that to be addressed. I daggone sure wouldn't send my son to go fight in a war for Ukraine. Why? He's brown. He's black. You don't care about his skin. You don't care about him as a person. You don't value his life.
And I think that's one of the casualties of this whole conflict. They said that when anybody goes to war, truth becomes the casualty, right? And so I feel like that is one of the casualties of this whole conflict, which is that was a story that we talked about, and then now it dies out after a while. And one of the big things that, and I'm happy that you brought that back up, because I know that in a world that we live in a culture that we all participate in and even make, that we forget. So is there a way that we could still walk the line of being concerned about all people without adding to the division of what's already happening?
Let me just read something that our great friend Joel just wrote in the chat. Ukrainian border guards separated Africans together with Indians from the rest and directed us to Romanian border, scores of miles away. Aura said, they told us that if we try to push our way through, they're going to shoot us. These are black and brown people talking, Africans talking.
Yeah.
They were going to be shot if they tried to escape, try to push their way through to escape.
Yeah, to go to Poland.
What? How can I care as a black woman about about anything that's going on with Ukraine when they are telling my people that they'll be shot for trying to get to safety? I don't understand. That's not fair. How is that fair to ask me? That's like an abuser being like, but care about me. Who cares if I'm abusing you? Care about me. Yeah. Absolutely not. I'm tired. I'm 32 years old and I'm tired. To say that I'm this tired of seeing racism, of being privy to racism, of being on the receiving end of racism, of having to see my people go through racism globally. Yeah. Because I look at us as African people. We are part of the African diaspora, in my opinion. We're all connected. So those are my people. I may not be born on African soil, but those are my ancestors. Those are my people. I have skin that looks just like them. If I were in Ukraine, I would have been right with them. So with that being said, why should I give a flying F-U-C-K about the Ukrainian people when they don't care about me or my people?
Let me just share with you what some of the folks from our YouTube chat are saying, and folks continue to post your comments. But Dujima Boutique, hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. Sister is right. Can the U.S. also extend this grace to Haitians, Palestinians, Libyans, Yemens, etc., and all the countries U.S. have violated their human rights? Caden Baseball Footage said, quote, come on, the Africans pillaged their education system and upset that they are not the first out. Should Ukraine get their people out first? Uh, and Brian checked in and said, "Look, I'm neutral. I know the situation is much more complicated between Russia, Ukraine, the West, and China. This is all like happening at the same time. And one of the big stories that, since you're bringing up, they're talking about the great plight of African people. One of the big stories that we're going to be exploring here on the show is that now, because Africa gets a lot of its foods, particularly wheat, and I think Africa imports wheat to Russia, that by the fact that those sanctions have stopped the flow, that there's going to be a hunger issue in the continent of Africa as a result of this.
Africa is always impacted.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're always impacted, just like we as American people are impacted by this nonsense. This is not me saying that I don't care about people. If anyone, like when we talked about Ukraine, when everything was kind of first popping off, if anyone goes back and watches that show, that episode that I was on, I was down for Ukraine. I was down for aiding Ukraine in any way that we possibly can. That was before I saw what was happening. And I feel like I have every right to change how I feel based on the treatment of my people. The same way Ukrainian cares about getting their people out first, I have every right to care about the fact that my people, not only were we not able to get out first, we were told that we'd be shot. We were starving. People were dropping down from hypothermia, cold. That is inhumane. You are asking for people to be humane, but you are not showing humanity to other people. That is a conflict, a contradiction. You're a walking contradiction. You as a president got on there begging for people to be humane. You want to pull on our heartstrings. Well, guess what? You did, but not in the way that you wanted to. Because my heartstrings are sad and they are being pulled for the African, the Asians, and the Indians who are unjustly treated in Ukraine. And who I bet you they've been unjustly treated in Ukraine. If you look up the racism scores for around the world, Ukraine and Russia both are at the close to the top for being some of the most racist countries in the world. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And I want to, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. And I want to get more detail to folks about this situation that it was reported that since Russia and Ukraine are key players in the global agricultural trade, both nations account for a quarter of the world's wheat export, including at least 14% of corn exports in 2020 and a joint 58% of global sunflower oil export in the same year. Trade between the African countries and the former Soviet neighbors, especially Russia, has flourished in this past few years. And CNN is reporting that with Russian exports to the continent valued at $14 billion annually, and imports from Africa was around $5 billion per year. So the great concern that African economists are having is that there's going to be a looming and likely catastrophic lowering of trade volumes, but essentially that there's going to be higher food prices coming to hit Africa in a way that we did not know. So I wanted to bring that up, as you spoke about the impact of what we're seeing, because some of us may not know about the relationship between, Africa and that part of the world. But it's a very, very significant relationship that feeds people.
Yeah. And that's between Russia and Africa.
And Ukraine. Yes. So you're right. So and part of the reason why that story of African students is because of the close economic ties that all three of these continents have with one another. That's and folks, you just take a look at it yourself. Look up the food supply. We just had it. Keenan, if you could throw that back on the screen for me, please, brother. Like, if you take a look at that, look how Russian-Ukraine conflict could influence Africa's food supplies. That's a big conversation. We're going to explore it more, but we're seeing that this is a trickle-down effect from the economics to along all the way up to human rights. So it's a big thing. So a lot of people are saying, like, look, we do need to keep that part of the conversation at the forefront, because at the end of the day, we don't live in those parts of the world.
Yeah. Right. And they need to eat. They need to eat. That,
Yeah.
that's a given. They need to eat. That's not up for debate. I think
Yeah.
I'm just tired.
So
I'm
here's the
tired.
big thing. Here's the big thing, dear.
Mhm.
President Biden has already committed at least $800 million to aid to the Ukrainian people and to the Ukrainian government. There has been other reports saying that America will also provide weapons for the Ukrainian people. And I know you're not a quote unquote, foreign policy expert and all of those things, but what just using common sense, what do you foresee happening with America's role over the next 30 days with this situation? I mean, we're in the third week of this conflict. What do you foresee happening?
Oh, you already know America is going to come to the aid of Ukraine. That's what America does. Personally, I don't think that America should be giving them anything. But that's what America does. But of course, when it comes to countries like Haiti and other places, we get breadcrumbs and the slow moving of the feet and misappropriation of funds from the Red Cross and all these other issues that we would just go into another conversation. But again, the American people is starving. The American people, we have issues on our own soil that need to be dealt with. Again, I can't say that we need to not be a part of this conversation because, again, Ukraine and Russia impact so much of the world, as we all know, as we're seeing and learning more and more. But again, we have to educate ourselves because let's be real. We don't know what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. We have no clue. Hell, most people didn't realize how close Russia actually was to America because, we look at it on a flat map often. So we like, oh, Russia's all the way over here, not realizing like, oh, this is actually a circle. So we're really, really close to Russia, but we don't really often hear a lot about Russia. We're not taught about it in school. It's not something that we really pay a lot of attention to. So we got to do our research because we need to really understand how our relationship with Russia and Ukraine actually affects the American people, because that's what ultimately we have to be worried about. We do have to be worried about the American people the same way the Ukraine is worried about the Ukrainian people.
Right. And I think that is the big concern. And it's going to be interesting, dear, how President Biden moves forward on this, how Congress moves forward on this situation. But it's going to be, we're going to keep our eyes open and we're going to keep, of course, keep folks posted about it. But this is interesting. And I'm always going back to the point that as we're hearing about American journalists being killed and photographers being killed from this situation, if you look at the history of any major war that this country or this world has, but let's say this country, there are events that have led up to
us finally getting into the war.
Yep. Most of the time, it's around issues of nationalism. Of course, it's around the issues of economics. It's always around the issue of natural resources. And it's around the issue of, like the death of an American or the death of a number of Americans. So when we see all of these things happening, it's going to be highly, highly important that all of us keep our eyes open and not just think that that's over there, we're over here.
Yeah, I agree.
Over there can soon visit us over here.
Well, I mean, Farajii, it's already affecting us over here. We're already I already seen memes about people riding on scooters or riding on a horse because of like gas prices are out of control. We saw it with even our food supply. How much does it cost for a pack of chicken? The amount of money that I've been paying for chicken, y'all, I never thought I would pay for chicken, but I'm buying it. I'm still gonna buy that chicken, no matter how much it costs. I'm not gonna lie. I am black, but like these things are affecting us. We cannot pretend like they do not affect us. But I can tell you one thing: this beautiful brown body will not be fighting in any European war. Period. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
My tax dollars might have to go to it. I have no control of where my tax dollars go, but my body, I got control of where that goes, and I will not be fighting for any white man's war. Period.
All right, there it is, Nir Muhammad. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch gears, folks. Let's talk about Wells Fargo, how they have approved less than half of mortgage applications for Black homeowners, and how their history continues to show the great discrimination of home ownership in America. We're going to be checking in with the coordinator of CRA Baltimore, Jules Dunham, to give us some insight about how the banking system can possibly take accountability and be reformed. So stay tuned for that conversation. We got a lot to get to in the second 30 of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
Folks, the third largest commercial bank is added again. They're put on blast yet again for discriminatory practice. I'm talking about Wells Fargo, where they have shown that they have not really improved the relationship with the Black community. According to Bloomberg News, I want you to think about this. Bloomberg News did an analysis that was published on March 11th, and it showed that Wells Fargo approved less than half of the mortgage refinancing applications submitted by Black homeowners across the country in 2020. I want us to look at this, folks. Wells Fargo the third largest commercial bank, they approve less than half of the mortgage refinancing applications submitted by Black homeowners across the country in 2020. As a comparison, the bank approved 72% of applications submitted by white homeowners and 67% by Asians and 53% of Hispanic homeowners. Here to talk to us a little bit about what Wells Fargo is doing, and most importantly, what we can do to reform the banking system, especially in the area of home loans and mortgages. We have Ms. Jules Dunham, who serves as the coordinator for the group CRA Baltimore. This is a group that is going after the banks, making them more accountable for their investment in the Black community. And I want to welcome Jules to the show. Jules, thank you so much for checking in. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, good afternoon, Farajii. I am well. I'm happy to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And in a few moments, we're going to bring back Culture crew member Nir Muhammad. But Jules, I put up that data to let people know here is a bank that we all know. And in case anybody was, forgot about, because I know, again, this is the culture where we forget about things. Back in 2008, this was the bank that fell apart, that the federal government had to resuscitate. They were on the verge of shutting their doors. I remember that. They were giving out faulty bank loans. They were doing some really shady practices and with their mortgages. I mean, they were just doing a lot of just craziness that impacted Black and brown communities from getting homes, businesses, and other ways, other assets. This is a real problem. Now to see this bank still doing these type of discriminatory practices, Jules, I'm trying to understand, why is this bank still in existence? Why hasn't there been somebody to really call them out? Why hasn't the government stopped them? Why are people still getting loans from this bank? How are they able to keep the trust and while still doing these things?
Well, you have to realize that the majority of their depository holders are not us. And so therefore, there aren't enough of us who are saying this is unacceptable, what you are doing to Black and brown communities all across the country. And so we really can't get the bandwidth. But you're absolutely right, Farajii. Wells Fargo has been a predatory lender in the past, and they said they were going to do better. But what's very interesting is, they had to pay $184 million in a settlement, even though they would not admit fault. But they paid $184 million because of their discriminatory lending practices. And they said, we promised to do better. But just last year, in 2021, they had to be slapped on the hand again because they haven't done better. And so, but we are not organized and mobilized, unfortunately, enough in our communities to even think that we can take on a mammoth such as Wells Fargo. And let's put it in perspective, okay? Because Wells Fargo is a huge bank and they're national. And just in Baltimore City alone, Wells Fargo is the third largest bank. They have 10.45% of all of the deposits in Baltimore City are with Wells Fargo. They've got 16 offices right in Baltimore City, and they have over $1.4 billion in deposits. So they are absolutely a mammoth bank within our specific city. And like I said, that's every city across the country because they're national.
So let's talk about the work that CRA Baltimore is doing to address this issue, because for folks that don't know, this is a coalition of folks, a coalition of community, of homeowners, community members, civic leaders. I mean, you guys are deciding, you know what, enough is enough. We're going to be the David to take on the Goliath of banking.
That's exactly right. And so, we have been being shepherded by Al Pina, who is the co-founder of the National Minority Community Reinvestment Cooperative. And he's also the founder of the National Virtual Black and Latino Economic Summit. And Al, came and he says, I'm looking for some cities that really want to delve into this issue and can understand the value of talking to the regulators about CRA. CRA is the Community Reinvestment Act. And the Community Reinvestment Act basically says that all banks have to give a percentage of their lending and resources to the low to moderate income community that they serve in. Well, for Baltimore City, that's a very large community because we're 67% Black, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that we should be getting the lion's share of resources coming from the banks. Well, the federal government, CRA, says you have to give a proportionate amount. But here's the crazy thing. The CRA says you have to give a proportionate amount, but then the banks do what they do, just like Wells Fargo does what it does. And all of the banks have a outstanding rating with the regulators. And so how can you have an outstanding rating with the regulators and yet you're being fined $184 million for predatory practices, and yet you're giving just a small segment of our communities access to resources? There's something wrong with that picture. And so that's why CRA was born. And so right now you've got about 7 cities all across the country that have mobilized these CRA councils. And so we're CRA Baltimore. And our council is focused on asking the top 11 banks that work within Baltimore City. And we're not talking about Baltimore County. We're talking about Baltimore City. Mm-hmm. The top 11 banks in Baltimore City, they have $85 billion in deposits. Exactly. I said billion. That's a lot of money. Yeah. Well, we're saying to those top 11 banks, you have $85 billion in deposits just in our city alone. We want you to make a commitment of $30 billion over the next 5 years to support the Black community in Baltimore City. And
$6 billion a year. So, Jules, you're talking about $6 billion a year.
That's right.
Going to the Black community of Baltimore in this case. But if there's a CRA Detroit, there's a CRA in other cities that you're talking about, they get their slice of the pie, their respective slice of the pie from the banks there.
Yeah, in their local cities. This is just Baltimore. Baltimore's asking for $30 billion over 5 years for Baltimore City alone.
Yeah.
But every single city has their own targets that they're asking for, and it's based on the deposits that the bank has in those cities. Okay. So what are we asking for that money to support? There are 4 critical areas that we know we need resources in. The first is we're looking for $15 billion to support small businesses. And that's actually looking at providing capital for Black and Latino small businesses where? In Baltimore City. Okay. And so why? Because small businesses, the number one issue for us is that we can't access dollars.
Right.
To even start up. We're very entrepreneurial, but how do we actually get a business started? On our credit cards, taking out, if we can, a loan. We'd use all of these vehicles to start an entrepreneurial effort that actually cause us to be running a deficit from the beginning. Whereas our counterparts, other folks, they're actually able to go and get a home equity line of credit. Right. They're able to go and get a small business loan, putting up a vehicle or, their house. And we don't have the luxury of that. Why? Because it goes back to what you started with, because Wells Fargo and many others, they're not lending and allowing us to be able to purchase homes. And that gives most people their number one area of wealth. So that's the first pillar.
Right.
The second is we're looking for 4.25 billion to support home ownership. And that's providing access to Black and Latino families to be able to own a home, so that they're now going to be able to have the upside and be able to get equity. And what does equity provide for us in the Black community? It means that you may be able to send your child to college. It means that you actually may be able to purchase a second home. Oh my goodness. And actually take advantage of having an income producing property within and develop a portfolio. It may mean that you can get yourself out of debt. But others have that luxury and we don't. And we need to increase the home ownership for Black people in Baltimore City, especially. The third area where we're seeking dollars is we're asking for $10 billion for housing development. That's increasing affordable rental and for sale housing that is done by Black and Latino developers. We have a host of developers in the city. The number one issue that they have is access to capital. They say, I know I have got my crews, I know how to do this, but I can't get a line of credit that's going to allow me to be able to have enough money so that I can front and get all of the costs and all of the development costs done, so that I can produce high quality housing stock. And what we don't want is for others to come into our community and take advantage of the upside. I commend, Mayor Scott for his $100 million initiative to rid us of blight. But what I want to see connected to that initiative is that Black and brown developers will be the ones that are actually renovating and bringing back online these houses in Baltimore City. Lastly, fourth pillar. We're asking for $75 million for building capacity. And that's for providing grants and investments to deliver increased community products and services. So we have phenomenal nonprofits all across this city, and they're run by Black and brown people, but they are underfunded, underinvested in. And so we have to be able to get money that is going to be able to be pumped back into these nonprofits so that they can actually do what they do at a larger scale.
Yeah.
We've got United Ways of the world. They get $10 million grants and we get $10,000 grants.
Right. Right. So and Jules, I appreciate you breaking it down for us, just so our watchers and viewers and everybody can understand, like, where they coming up with this $30 billion from, why that particular demand, but more importantly, how is that money planning to be used? I want to bring back culture crew member Nira Muhammad, my wife, to talk to us, to share her thoughts about what she just heard around this situation. Dear, when you hear what Jules Dunham Howie said about the banking system and what they're supposed to do based upon the law, the CRA Community Reinvestment Act of 1977. 1977. What's your take on all of that?
It hit so close to home for me because I remember as a small business owner, I remember trying to take out a small business loan. And then I don't even think it was for a lot. I think it was literally for about $10,000, but it was really capital that would have been really, really beneficial to help me with my business and really getting it off the ground. And I remember they were like, okay, well, you need some equity for this loan. So they were like, okay, well, do you have a vehicle? So I was like, yeah, I do have a vehicle. And I remember giving them like all of my vehicle information and they were like, yeah, no, we can't accept your vehicle. And wow. I was just like, it's like, just like she was saying, it's always a barrier. As Black and brown people, we can literally come out of high school and go into debt with student loans, but we cannot come out of high school and go into debt with a small business loan. Why is that? Why is it that I can't get a $10,000 small business loan, but I can take out a lot of money for student loans. I don't even want to put myself out there and say like how much student loan debt I have. But I mean, it truly, truly is sad. Even going through the home buying process, because that was another process that I went through that was extremely, extremely, extremely stressful. But I'm just thinking about how, as Black and brown people, we are often denied these home loans. I could not go through a major bank to get my home loan. When I was applying for home loans, I was denied by all the major banks. It was a smaller bank that actually approved me for my home loan, even though I met the quote, I was above what was necessary for an FHA loan. I was well into the 600s. I still was denied. And I was a teacher, a Baltimore City school teacher, and was denied by some of these major banks. I had to go through a smaller company. And I hate that feeling as a Black woman. And I can attest to going through some of these same exact processes and being hit with so many roadblocks that I myself wanted to quit. I just was like, you know what? Maybe buying a house isn't for me. Maybe taking out a small business loan isn't for me. I was not able to take out a small business loan. I was able to get a business credit card, but that's still not the same. I wanted to take out a business loan that could also help me erase some of the other debt that I had that would have also helped boost my credit score. These are things that white people do. You know what I mean? I have friends. I have a white girlfriend. I lied to you not. She was like $20,000 in student loan. I mean, not student loan debt, in credit card debt. She took out a loan to pay off all of her credit card debt to boost her credit score.
That's wild.
That was something I couldn't do.
Yeah. And so, Jules, when we look at a situation like that, that just speaks to the level of disparity that and the type of relationship that we have with the banks versus other people having with the banks.
That's exactly right. And that's just one story.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take that and compound it, what really are you talking about? You're talking about billions of dollars. And so recently it was, the COVID created the best opportunity for people to refinance all across this country.
Right.
Because we have had the lowest interest rates that we've had in decades. And interest is where you just give people your money. Okay. So, but when you look at how many people actually refied their loans, it's mind-boggling, because you actually had millions of white people refinance their loans over this last 2 years. And you had 250,000 Black people who were able to refinance their loans.
Wow.
Exactly. Why?
Insane.
Because they have all of these excuses as to why we cannot get access to capital. But it starts with the fact that we're a racist country. Redlining still exists, and it's called digital redlining now. And you know how they do it? They actually have a computer program that has an algorithm that when you put in your loan application, they actually run this algorithm, and the algorithm has been created in such a way where it's racist.
Wow. Right. The algorithm is just an expression or an outgrowth of the designer, of the engineer's attitude and views.
It's insane.
That's crazy. Dear, you had a question?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, when we were trying to refinance like our vehicle, not one late payment for well over a year, and they're like, no, you can't refinance it. It's like, what do you mean I can't refinance? I've never had a late payment. I've never had a missed payment for well over a year, and I can't refinance. I mean, it's just insane, the amount of roadblocks that we're constantly being hit with. And we're always told lies, because, at the beginning, we're told, oh, in 6 months, you can come back and you can refinance. Okay, well, I'm going to wait a year to come back and refinance. You wait a year and it's still, wait 18 months. Then you get to the 18 months point and you're like, oh, well, no, wait 24 months. It truly is sad what we as Black and brown people go through in this country on so many different different levels. It's almost like, it's really tiring. If I'm being it's so tiring.
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. So Jules, what do you recommend that we should do? Because people are looking at this. When you're talking about the banking institution, you really are talking about Goliath. Yes. This is the same institution that you already pointed out the numbers, billions and billions of dollars that come from the deposits of Black and brown people in specific. So what do you recommend that we do? How do we organize to make banks accountable? And most importantly, how do we make sure that we get the investment that we deserve, rooted and based on the law that was made by Congress?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because you have to get to the place where you actually do come up with solutions. And so CRA Baltimore is an accountability watchdog coalition made up of organizations all across the city. And we invite you to be a part of our coalition force and check us out, crabaltimore.com. Sign up to get on our mailing list. We have hundreds of people on there right now. And we actually are going to be bringing the banks to the table annually and doing an annual report card to let people know how well they're doing with the commitments that they've made to Baltimore City. So it starts with us keeping our eye on the prize. We have to make certain that we hold them accountable. And what they like to do is put a little shiny object in front of us. Oh, well, we gave this 500,000. We gave this 10,000. Well, no, I don't care about that. We've asked for hundreds of millions of dollars, and we are deserved those hundreds of millions of dollars. And we're going to make sure that you're held accountable for providing them to Black and brown people in Baltimore City. But here's one of the other things that we need to do from a policy perspective. Currently, banks are not allowed to include alternative ways and how the credit scores are done. And the number one issue that most people have is their credit score.
Facts.
And so what Fannie Mae is doing is a pilot where they're including rental payments in credit assessments. Well, that is a game changer for people of color.
About time.
And so what we need to do is push that this is not just Fannie Mae, but that all banks, the regulators, we have to push the regulators to be able to say all banks should have the ability to take into consideration alternative ways as they are making their financial decisions. And so the alternative way, we want them to think about rental payments, a person's rental history. You see how they're now trying to get creative with letting your BGE payments count to help you boost your credit score, and other payments to help boost your credit score. It's about time, because the one thing that we do as a community is spend money.
Right.
And so the money that we spend should be helping us build a strong credit profile.
Well, let me tell you, we got like a minute left, Jules. Considering that Wells Fargo is on the hot seat once again, CRA Baltimore is actually planning to meet with Wells Fargo, you said, very soon. In about 30 seconds, or you already met with them. What came out of that conversation at that meeting?
Well, we've had the first two conversations. See, when you do this, it's a little bit of a dance, and it's a negotiation, quite frankly, because we are serious. And we're serious about making sure that these banks come and show up in Baltimore City in a different way. And so we're still in the dance with Wells Fargo. We've had our first two meetings, but I'm going to tell you, one of the banks that we're meeting with, we have a monthly meeting set up for the next 6 months, because that's the level of the negotiation. You see, we got all four of those pillars. We're asking each bank to give us a commitment in each one of these pillars and to give us an overall number. And so it's taken time to be able to get us there. But we're currently meeting with Bank of America, M&T Bank, Wells Fargo, PNC Bank, and Truist. Those are the top 5 in our market. And we have active conversations and negotiations going with those top 5. And the next 6 are right in line. We've already invited them to the table for their initial conversations. And when we have that initial conversation, it is open to all in our community. And so we do a webinar where everybody can come and hear the bank in their initial presentation. And then the coalition leadership is who is sitting at the table helping to negotiate. So we want you to plug in with us, and we are going to get Wells Fargo to make a commitment to Baltimore City. And when they make that commitment, we need you all at the table with us to make sure that we hold them accountable.
Well, I will say, Jules, it sounds like a very, very strong model that can be duplicated in all of the cities across the country. And I'm happy that somebody is bringing the banking system to the carpet, pulling them up and saying, look, you're not doing enough. We know that banks are making, I mean, they just getting so much money off it. They just ripping rich off of us. But it's so good to hear that there are a group of concerned folks, Black folks, that are saying enough is enough. We'll certainly bring you back on, because as much as we talk about what Wells is doing, there is still a lot of conversation about the top post among the feds with the banking system on that level. So we got to bring you back, Jules. But I appreciate your time and for everything and the great work that you guys are doing.
Glad to be with you. Thank you so much, Farajii. I'm
Absolutely.
excited about the show, the culture.
Oh, appreciate it.
You see Mother Africa.
Yes, I see it. Well, we appreciate you. Folks, make sure you check out and get more information about the work of CRA Baltimore. If you want to learn about this group, this coalition that is doing the powerful work of making banks accountable, make sure you reach out to them at crabaltimore.com. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch gears. We got to talk about what does it mean that now that the Senate has approved making daylight savings time permanent. We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more in the next hour. So stay with us. You're tuned into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back, folks.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, are you still in a space of trying to recover from the clock moving forward? Well, if you are, you're certainly not alone. Now it looks like that Congress has decided to do something that instead of us shifting from back to forward, that we just stay in one place, one time, all the time. If you haven't heard, the Senate of our Congress has decided to approve a bill for making daylight savings time permanent. Now that bill goes to the House, and most likely the way the House is, how the House do House things, they're going to approve this bill. And so that means that the time that we are working from at this moment, this particular moment right now, folks, will stay the same. And that come 2023, that we will no longer do the biannual switching of the time. Now, what does that mean for us? It means that we get to enjoy life a little differently. But I always found it fascinating. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation. I found it fascinating that we are living in a time where we can adjust the clocks or try to regulate time to fit our interests and needs. I want to bring back Culture Crew member Nira Muhammad, who is an author. She is also an activist, and she serves as the host of Queen Talks with Nira Muhammad, the podcast that can be heard on all podcast streaming platforms. Nira, thank you so much, dear, for checking back in with us for the second hour.
Always a pleasure for us. Sounds like I'm having a little trouble there.
You're having a little trouble there. I see that. You actually, we talked about this, and you were like, dear, I am still trying to keep up. I'm still trying to catch up an extra hour. Like, you felt this hour this year.
I feel it every year. And I think as educators, we feel it every year. Monday, like half my class was late to school on Monday. Let me just say that. I was not surprised though, because they're forced to really wake up an hour earlier than what their bodies are normally used to waking up. So the fact that like half my students were late to school on Monday, I was like, you know what, guys? I feel like this is just a late day. We're just going to start off a little late today because we're all feeling the brunt of daylight savings time. Heck, a fight happened in my classroom on Monday. I was like, you know what? I'm blaming all of this on daylight savings time and the full moon that's coming.
Right.
I'm definitely feeling the brunt of it.
So you're feeling brunt, and you're gonna feel all types of ways. What is the thing? Because you're what do they call it when retrograde? That's what it's called.
Yes, we're not Mercury retrograde right now though, but we will be in full moon, and I can tell. No, it's a real thing. Like I was literally just having to talk to my principal about it, and she said she and other educators in Virginia did a study where educators studied how the moon affects the behavior of students, and she said they couldn't look at each other's data. It was like half the teachers had to study the moon. The other half had to study behaviors. And it was like a real thing. Like when they brought their data together, she said, the moon really does in seasons. Because that's another big thing with the whole daylight savings time. They're saying that it'll help with seasonal depression. Because, again, a lot of people become depressed during the fall and winter months because the day is so short. Mm-hmm. I am all for just keeping it where it is, not moving it back. Because once it doesn't go back, you won't feel the difference. Once you're like a couple months into daylight savings time, when we spring forward, you don't really notice it anymore. I am all for the days being longer. Like when the day gets dark at like 4:30, it feels like it's 10 o'clock at night at 5. And I think that probably has something to do a little bit with why people gain more weight during the fall and winter months, because you're eating dinner earlier because it feels so late. And then you're like, I'm hungry. And you're like, but it's 10 o'clock. But it's felt like 10 o'clock for like 5 hours. You know what I mean? But when it's light outside, you notice we eat dinner later because it doesn't feel so late. So I feel like we're actually eating less during the spring and summer months. Isn't that kind of crazy?
It's very crazy. It's very crazy. And I think that it's important that we understand, like back, just to kind of give you folks a history on this situation. It was back in 1966. Where Congress passed what they called the Uniform Time Act. And that particular act allowed daylight savings time to become the law.
Yeah.
And at that time, when they passed that act, they made it as part of, a condition that the individual states can opt out of participating in this daylight savings time. Daylight savings time is rooted in economics and saving energy.
Yeah.
And so when states said, no, we'll all go in, then they were thinking about, of course, the economics of the state, the 40-hour work week that Henry Ford put in place for Americans some time ago. I mean, everything was rooted in what can we do to maximize labor
Yeah. Well, actually, Ben Franklin was the one that like kind of, quote unquote, figured it out, but I do think it's interesting because, obviously already all states do not participate in daylight savings time. This is not something that every state does, but it's based on kind of your region, based on the way that, the light hits at this certain time of year. There are a lot of benefits to daylight savings time. And even with us changing it, there's going to be some ramifications for the animals, for our livestock, because they're used to this schedule. So it's going to take some readjusting. But I do feel like the benefits, like, they're saying that it can help with childhood obesity by ridding daylight saving time. So again, I do feel like I do want more hours of the day, because I do find myself becoming a little bit seasonally depressed as well during those winter months, at least here in Maryland. Now, how I feel in, the sunny place that I'm going to might be different. But for now, I do get seasonal depression because I'm like, it's 5 o'clock and I'm thinking it's 10 o'clock. And I do eat a lot more in the winter.
So basically you saying that if it's sunny outside, then you can lose weight.
That sounds terrible. No, but I really it sounds bad, but if you really, really think about it, I want people to just take a moment and really think about your habits during the winter months. You're not as active. It's cold. It's dark. You're home.
Yeah.
Especially as women, we women, once we come home from work and it's dark outside, listen, the bra is off, the wig is off. Okay,
she's at the door. I get it.
I'm gonna leave a trail. A trail to the bedroom.
Original self at that time.
Listen, it's like a Bratz doll. I took it all off, baby. I'm not coming back out. It's dark. But it's only 6 o'clock. Is it? Is it only 6 o'clock? Because it feels like midnight. The moon is out.
You haven't even eaten dinner yet, Mom. I've eaten dinner. Y'all have to figure something out. No, let me stop playing.
So you want me to eat a second dinner because you hungry? Oh, you want to eat dinner at 7?
No. But this is an interesting thing. Do you believe that the House is going to pass this new daylight savings time bill? You think they're going to keep it permanent?
I do, but if they do pass it, just be prepared. We are going to have to change back at the end of this year. It won't become permanent until November of 2023. Right. So at the end of this year, we are going to go back an hour, and then next year we'll go forward. And then if we go back in November 2023, that means we're going to go back again. Listen.
Well, no. It's once. So once 2023 comes, that's it.
But it says it's not until November. It says November of 2023.
Right.
That's after. Isn't that after? No, you're right. Because we go back. I think
one more time. It'll be just one time.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be one more time.
Okay.
One more time.
One more change. Well, here's the other thing.
No, we're gonna go back this year. Then we got to spring forward next year, and then we stop at spring forward.
Okay.
See how we gotta break this down so we can you gotta plan your life around this,
You don't have to plan your life around it. Because you know why? Most of our technology automatically updates itself.
I'm not talking about that, Farajii. I'm talking about my sleep schedule. What are you talking
about? Oh my gosh. So you talk about your sleep schedule as if, okay.
You gotta plan your life around your sleep schedule.
Right. So here's the thing. Here's one of the big things that I think that we need to really look at is, getting into a space where we're using our time wisely in terms of, working and just making sure that we are taking the most out of our time. Because I don't think a lot of people understand how, especially if you're talking about being successful or doing anything in any endeavor, the way you use time plays an integral role in dictating how successful you will be.
Which is why we need the Sunshine Protection Act. We need as much sunlight.
Did you wait? Whoa. What's the Sunshine
Protection Act? That's what it's called.
Act. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's what it's called.
I'm just making sure. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but we really do need it because, as you just mentioned, we are our best selves when it's sunny outside. We're more inclined to be active when it's sunny outside. And that's just, I mean, let's be real. On a gloomy day, we're like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, on a gloomy day, you're like, I want to just lay in bed, or I want to cuddle on the couch and watch movies and Netflix all day, or maybe do some art or reading. And that's fine. I love my gloomy days sometimes. But when it's sunny outside, that makes me want to get out of bed. When you hear the birds singing, you see that sunlight peering through your window, it does something. That serotonin, it does something to you. That vitamin D really does something to you, and it's so good for you, and it makes you want to be active. That's why we're outside more during the spring and summertime months, because it's not just because it's warm outside, but it's also because it's sunlight outside. Because we're okay with being out in the cold when it's sunny. You know what I mean? There's something to that. Like, the sun really does make you feel better, and it makes you more productive. When it's dark outside, I'm gonna be in the house early.
Right. Being in early. All right, folks are checking in. McCole checked in and said, look, they need to keep daylight savings time. I prefer more sunlight. Who doesn't? McCole, I'm with you 100%. You know, I personally, I love windows. I love opening windows. I want the sun to hit every square inch of my home. I just love windows. I love the sunlight. And I know that, to your point there, that it does do something to your mind. But I think that we also need to preface that you, even on gloomy days, you have to find a reason to smile and to shine.
Oh yes, I love gloomy days. I found reasons to love gloomy days, i.e., reading, laying in bed, eating on the couch. That's my gloomy day thing. But honestly, no, there's something to that sunlight. There's something to even just the way that it makes you feel. You know what I mean? Like, it's something to what it does to your body, to your skin, just everything about it. So I am all for the Sunshine Protection Act. I love the idea that it's not going to be dark as I don't know what at 5 p.m. And I'm curious to see what it's going to look like. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get to experience that, though, because of where I'm moving to. But when I do come back to Baltimore in the fall, I'm curious to see how it looks, because right now, all I do know is that it gets really dark really early. But I'm excited to see what that's going to look like when they, don't change it back.
Well, you know what? Here's the other thing. You're not the only one. McCole, you're not the only one. I'm not the only one. According to a poll that was conducted back in October of last year from the Associated Press and the Newark Center for Public Affairs Research, they said about 3/4 of Americans recently said they would prefer not switching back and forth between standard and daylight saving time.
For sure.
The experts have also said, and you spoke about some of the consequences in terms of mental health being one of the big ones, but sleep disruption and a temporary uptick in traffic accidents.
Oh, and crime. They said it's not by not changing it, we also cut down on crime as well, which I thought was very, very interesting. That by not going back, and again, and I don't know if that has something to do with it being dark outside. Do more crimes happen when it's darker outside? I don't know if that correlates to why they believe the crime will go down. I think that's really interesting.
48 years ago, dear, they tried to make this happen. This was during 1973, about 48, 49 years ago. President Nixon, he signed a bill into law which pushed the U.S. on a daylight saving time for 2 years. He said the law went into effect on January 6, 1974. People thought that the law sounded good on paper. They liked the idea. The public, we love the idea of avoiding confusion and frustration. But what happened was sunrises became at 8 a.m. or later in the middle of winter. And then in some areas, sunrises could be as late as 9:30.
Yikes.
Now, again, President Nixon did this for 2 years. So that's the other side of this conversation, folks, that some things are going to be switched. And if, for example, you are an educator, you are a teacher. We know that school starts in a you bring the side all that. I guess you know where I'm getting to, right?
Because I'm trying to envision how that would look in like just think about Baltimore, where we are when we go back an hour. I feel like when I have to wake up, it's mad dark outside, so I don't feel like that will be our issue.
Yeah,
because it's really, really dark outside when we go to sleep and when we wake up. So I feel like by leaving it the way that it is now, it'll be lighter outside earlier. And it just stays darker. I mean, brighter, longer. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like during the winter months, when I get up at 6 a.m. in the winter months, it's super, super dark. But with time going forward, now I'm waking up at 7, it's bright outside.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, if you're talking about from an educational standpoint, with children standing on bus stops waiting for their buses in the middle of the morning,
I don't want it to go back, because when it goes back, they're outside in the dark, in the cold.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And in Baltimore City, and I think across a lot of urban cities, our children don't have the luxury of having a yellow bus come pick them up in front of their home. No. I know my 15-year-old brother has to catch literally 2 buses to get to school in the morning.
And what time is he usually out there on the bus stop?
He hates going out there really, really early in the dark by himself. So he's late to school sometimes because he doesn't want to go out there at 6 o'clock in the morning. He'd rather go out there around 7 where it's lighter outside. But that's causing him to be late. So I've kind of gotten on him about it. But I do understand him not wanting to be outside so early in the dark by himself because he's really small.
Yeah.
But, you know, and he's trans. But still, so it's like, you know, I get it. And then even like just knowing that my students have to take more than one bus to get to school, I would prefer for them to have more daylight in the morning than even in the evening, because that's when they have to be out there in the dark.
Well, let me just tell you, folks, when Richard Nixon did it, like, again, he did it, people were applauding him. Oh, man, this sounded great. When it started to interfere with what we considered to be sunrise and sunset, when it started to disrupt school schedules in some cases, even in terms of religious, in religion, of course, like the holy month of Ramadan and during Islam, you know, you have daylight, you have sunrise and sunset. I mean, those type of things are being affected. Public approval, when Richard Nixon put the law into action, his public approval for the law dropped severely and rapidly at that time from 79% in December of 1973 to 42% in February of 1974.
I wonder though, which part of daylight savings did he leave it on? Did he leave it on fall back or spring forward?
Yeah.
Because that also makes a difference too. Do you leave it on fall back or do you leave it on spring forward?
Well, at that time, by October of 1974, according to the history, Congress reversed course and put the country back on standard time for 4 months of the year.
Jeez. Oof.
And see, you know, and I mean, at first, when we first think about this time situation, at first it's like, oh, just put the clocks forward. But look at the domino effect that it creates when you just put the clocks back or put the clock forward. Look how many adjustments we all have to make, from children to religion to eating to everything that we do. Every element of our life is based upon time.
Yeah, I hate it. To be honest, I don't like it. I don't like having to... I like it in the fall. Who doesn't like it in the fall? Because you're like, yay, I get an extra hour of sleep, quote unquote. But I hate what it does to my body in the spring. I hate that. I hate losing that hour of sleep. You feel it so much. You really feel it on Monday morning. Or, the people that work overnight. Could you imagine being at work and time goes, like, you know what I mean? Like, now you got to be at work an extra hour. And you're like, dang, like this is some bull crap. Or you got to be to work an extra hour early. Then you really feel it. So for those of us that work, we really feel it. If you're not like at work or at school, then you're like, whatever. But for students, we feel it. Again, my students definitely felt it. They were, half the class was late to school on Monday. They're like, Miss Muhammad, I'm tired. Like everyone was tired and sluggish and moody on Monday. Monday was not a good day. I'm just saying. Right.
So if we had a chance to talk to any lawmakers right now, what would you say to them about this issue?
I would simply say I think that they should just go with daylight saving times, leave it as it is. We don't need to fall back in the fall, and I think we should just leave it as it is because it really does impact students. Let us just get used to one thing instead of kids and adults having to literally change. I mean, again, we just talked about how this affects our mental health, how it affects our sleep, how it affects our physical health. It affects so many different areas of our lives. Let's just try it out and see. Biden already got a low approval rating as it is. I mean, can this really hurt him anymore?
It can because, you know, it's a cultural thing. And you and I both know that when any cultural topic or cultural issue, it sometimes outweighs the very hardcore issues. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I never forget being told, you know, you could do a lot of things, for example, as a politician, if you're a mayor or a council person or alderman or wards person, you know, the big thing that I learned that you could talk about gun violence, you can talk about schools, as long as you keep people's trash picked up and their snow removed when when things happen, right? It's like, those are what they call constituent services. Those are the mundane things, like something like this. And like I just said, this has happened with Richard Nixon. Like, people will literally say, "Oh, we all for it," and then a couple of months later say, "Oh, this is a terrible idea," and then go to the polls in November and be like, "We got to get the Democrats out because they like saving time."
Some like the day not starting until 9 a.m. I'm for that.
No,
I'm for that. But a lot of people are not.
I'm not.
You know, I'm not.
I'm not.
Listen. I could live in Paris because I love the fact that like Paris has like their schedule is so crazy. Like they stay sleep longer, but they stay out longer. I loved it. I was like, what? We can sleep in and stay out long.
But that's a whole. But see, the difference.
I know, but it's like a cultural shift. I'm like,
that's the difference.
I like it. So let's see what this daylight savings is all about. Let's sleep a little bit longer in the morning. Listen, Farajii, we will all be happier, less moody people if we get to sleep.
Look, let me just tell you, I like waking up before the sun comes up, and I'm sure some people do this.
That's my point.
Wait a minute, hold on.
The sun come up at 9.
Hold on, no. I'm talking about there's nothing, the best part of the day, and I'm sure people will attest to this. The best part of the day is early in the morning when you have a chance to think, when you have a chance to meditate, pray, read something.
No.
That's
the best part of my day is when my kids are in bed. The house is quiet. Not a creature is stirring, not even a mouse. I'm an old Christmas song, baby. I'm an old Christmas carol.
Look.
I like it when it's quiet, it's dark. I like listen, I'm all about the moon. I call like my book that I'm writing is called I Am the Moon. So clearly
you are
I like night.
Yes, you are the moon, boy. You pull a tide, you pull the waters, everything closely.
I love the nighttime. I love the daytime too, but I love sleeping.
Right. I don't mind it. I
love relaxing.
But I really do appreciate those moments early in the morning. It's just something.
I'm messing with you, Farajii. You know I'm a writer, so I'm up early writing. I use those hours for writing, but I don't want anybody else up.
And look, let me tell you, I was told that the most creative time of any day is between the hours of like 3 and 6 a.m.
I can see that because I definitely have gotten a lot of writing done at like between like 3 and 5 in the morning. I'm just like busting it out, but that's because everybody else is asleep.
Right, exactly, and you can hear yourself think.
Right,
you can hear yourself think. All right, look. Well, it's time for us to end this segment. Oh man, okay. I thought that was a smooth transition, but I guess it wasn't. All right, we gotta take a quick pause. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let us get our bearings here and talk about something that's very, very important outside of time, which is the silent killer, diabetes in the Black community. We're going to check in with actor and producer and advocate Julian Bertano to get his take about how we can stop this silent killer from ravaging our community. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, we are back, and I wanted to talk about an issue that many of us may not know. Did you know that the #1 silent killer within the Black community is not homicides, it's not cancer, but it is diabetes? And here to talk to us a little bit about the impact of diabetes on the Black community is actor, producer, and advocate Julian Bertano, going to give us some insight about the work he is doing to bring awareness to this issue. Julian, thank you so much for checking in. We truly appreciate you and your time today. Oh, we're going to wait till you're going to get it. Okay, so let me just share this with you before, as Julian gets himself together, folks, because there have been a number of conversations about how do we deal with this issue of diabetes in this country. And I want to share with you very quickly something that I thought was absolutely riveting and fascinating. According to the University of Alabama at Birmingham, they did a study published in a medical journal by the name of Circulation, Genomic and Precision Medicine. And researchers found that while many African Americans, this is directly from the report, folks, so check this out. It says that while many African Americans, especially Those with a higher African ancestry proportion have a favorable lipid profile. They are at a higher risk of developing diabetes than those of white European ancestry. Now, look at this, folks. The research also indicates there are specific genetic variations that are more common among those with higher African ancestry that predispose these individuals to diabetes. Now, this is according to medical doctor, Dr. Vibhu Parsha, who is a clinical research fellow in the UAB division of cardiovascular disease and the first author of the study. And I thought that it was fascinating that we are predisposed to this silent killer. Look, I got to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about what this means. And then I'm going to get actor, producer, advocate Julia Britano to join us in this conversation. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Welcome back to the show, folks. We are going to be talking just for a few moments about the silent killer of diabetes and its impact on the Black community. And as I shared with you from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, folks, it shows that Black adults actually at a higher risk of developing diabetes due to genetic variations and social health determinants. Let me just share with you what that actually means. According to, and I shared with you just a little bit of what Dr. Parsha said, but Dr. Parsha also said that the high risk of diabetes among non-Hispanic Black individuals can be attributed to social health determinants of health, including where people are born, live, learn, and work, along with age. If you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not eating the right foods, if you're not getting the necessary exercise, if you're not enjoying the sunlight while there's day, you may find yourself becoming diabetic. Let's bring in now Julian Britano, who is an actor, producer, and advocate, and will be speaking for the National Association of Diabetes this coming week to talk to us a little bit about this issue. Julian, thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. How are you, brother?
I'm great, Raj. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you much and everything you guys got going on. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're welcome. You're welcome. First and foremost, folks may see in your face and say, he looks familiar. Yes, folks, he was in Oprah Winfrey's Greenleaf. He was he was right there next to Oprah herself in that bar scene. But Julian, you are also outside of what you're doing on screen, it's the work that you're doing off camera that I think is truly making the impact that we need to see, especially for our people in around the country. That is, you're an advocate of diabetes prevention. Talk to us about that work, brother.
No, absolutely. And actually, in about less than an hour, I gotta get to the American Diabetes Association. They're having a kickoff for Tour de Cure, is what they call it. They've been doing it for 30 years, and it's a major fundraising event that brings awareness and just experiences for others to be able to share in everybody's plight and journey with diabetes. I was diagnosed for onset of type 2 diabetes back in 2008. And, at that point, I'm still a young guy now, still in the grand scheme of things. But back then I'm thinking, everything should be okay. I'll just lose some weight and make some things happen like that. And I thought I was okay, at the end of the day. And it circled back on me because of other things and other components of which I believe you were speaking of, such as lifestyles, total holistic lifestyle approach. It's not just weight management. You know, it is exercise, it's sunlight, it's also rest, proper rest. It's understanding how the body actually, the human body, especially people in our community, our bodies are really made more so for plant living. And that's the truth, maybe. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go plant-based or anything like that, but our bodies break proteins down differently than animal proteins. And so what happens is between the fats, the cholesterols, the what's called cell waste, which exits the cell wall and it kind of hangs out in front of the cell wall, and that's where the liver releases fibrin, which usually helps us clot against injuries and things like that. It actually forms this wall together with the cholesterol, fats, and the cell waste, and it blocks the glycogen or the glucose from getting into the cell, so it kind of just hangs out in the bloodstream, which gives a buildup of glucose and A1Cs over time.
Right. And one of the things that I've learned, Julian, brother, is that anybody can get type 2 diabetes, but we see it more when you get into middle age, around the 40, the 48, 45-year-old age mark. Is that the case?
It's actually, the number is decreasing and going lower.
Wow.
Now. Yeah, it's like I said, I was onset type 2 at 30 years old. And it was crazy. And then I started seeing other people that was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And it's lifestyle. It's lifestyle and nutrition and understanding your body. And you have to go to the doctor. Go get your blood work. You know, I know a lot of us don't want to prescribe and think, oh, well, they're trying to kill us. Go see what's going on in your body. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. Like when we have conversations about physical health, right? And I mean, now I want to push back on that narrative that, for example, Black men don't like going to doctors. I don't know. I don't think that's the case, because I talk to a lot of brothers who are like, I go to the doctors as much as I can, especially when you get to a certain age, right? When you get 35 and older, you like, I need to go to the doctors. I need to get my blood work. When I went to the doctors to get my physical, they's like, do you want blood work? I mean, I want everything. I want blood work. I want STDs. I want everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though I know I'm good in some areas, I'm like, I just want to know. And I don't know whether it's the tests that are becoming the big wall, or is it just the attitudes and the stigma that's surrounding this idea that we're not invincible, that we may find ourselves in a vulnerable place when it comes to our health. I don't know which one is it. What was it for you?
It was just being ignorant. I'm just being transparent. Just being ignorant to the fact that I don't have all the answers. You know, I didn't have all the answers. I wasn't good. You know, you're thinking you're, like you said, invincible, and you think you're good to go, and you just don't know, because you're not a biologist. You're not a person that understands. You know, you're not a doctor like that. Like, you don't know what's going on to your body. You have to take the steps to see what's happening, and do some research too, because there's a lot of things that may not be informed to you by your physician or doctor, whether they know it, information, or they don't know it. That's irregardless. There's no excuse for you not to be able to gain your own intelligence about the subject matter. And so that's what I'm forced to do. You know, I had an amputation last year. I had my big toe amputated, you know, being ignorant, you know, but I had to tap into that mindset of, okay, I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm not going to let this, you know, set me back. You know, it was only minor setbacks. It wasn't even a setback. It was actually a setup for everything that I got going on now. So, but unfortunately, I had to go through what I had to go through. But, you know, I just turn it and use it to be able to help others and tell my story and just my experiences. And that's really all I can do, is share my perspective and adjustments I made personally in my life to improve from a A1C of a 13.4 down to a 7.1 in 2 months.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. And
that is beautiful.
Still going. So that this is a journey. This is a journey.
This is a big journey. I want to bring Nira Muhammad, my wife, and the artist and writer and host of Queen Talks with Nira Muhammad. I want to bring her back into this conversation. Nira, as you listening to Julian's story, what goes through your mind?
Just that as Black people in general, especially our Black men, you do have to take your health very, very serious. I know you're big on your health, Farajii, but there are a lot of Black men out there who do not even think about going to the doctors. If they're sick, I'll drink some ginger ale, take some Tylenol, and keep it moving.
Oh, man.
So I do think it's really, really important for Black men to lead these conversations and to get other Black men on board and to hold your brothers accountable. So to hear a Black man talking about this and even sharing his personal experience, that's really, really inspiring, because that'll touch someone. Someone's going to be listening to this and be like, dang, I think I might need to go get checked out too. So to keep hearing Black men advocating for themselves and for other Black men, that's a beautiful thing. I love it, and I'm all for it.
And what kind of support do you think is needed from spouses of Black men as well as community members for us, Julian, to make sure, like Nira said, that we do have these conversations, that we're creating a safe space where we're like, you know what, I need some help. I don't have things all together. I'm not good. What is needed from wives, girlfriends, mothers, grandmothers, and from the community?
So, for instance, my wife has been nothing but supportive to the utmost, and I will always cherish that in her. Helping with my meal prep, things like that. Help, just reminders, and just being a mirror. You understand? Like, it really takes the spouse to be a mirror to show you where your flaws are, because that's what we do. We look in the mirror to check our flaws. We don't look to see how we want to make sure we're straight. So in order to do that, we have to detect that, and that's what your spouse, your significant other, does for you. And just be transparent about the conversation. You know, as the male, be transparent, like talk, be open, subject yourself to vulnerability, because that's the only way you're going to get down to the root and the meat of what you got to do.
Absolutely. Final question, because I know that your time is limited, brother. So we appreciate you, Julian. But Nira talks about this fact of that you have all of these people, these come up with these like home remedies when we do get sick, not knowing that we might actually be very, very sick. How do we break out of the thinking like, oh, if I just do some home remedy, I should be good. I can go back to work for 10, 12 hours a day, instead of taking the time and say, you know what, let me take this mental and health day off and let me go to the doctors. How do we change that?
That's going to take some deprogramming.
Wow.
Honestly. Wow. I mean, because people are used to it. They're used to, we're taught from as little boys, okay, you fell. So what? Get up and walk it off. Walk it off. We didn't even check it. That might be broken or sprained, but we're told to walk it off. So we're taught from very young to just, don't worry too much about it. It'll be okay. Long as you just be tough about it. That, there is a mindset to it all, which does play a role into recovery and to discipline. But everybody that's under the sound of my voice right now, stop trying to self-remedy and self-diagnose, assess it, know what's going on with you, go share it with a physician that you trust. You don't have to just go to any random doctor that just you think that you have to go to. You interview them, just like you would do anybody else in your life. Interview your doctor, see who you like, see who you can get along with, who you feel. Your intuition will tell you who to trust and how to trust them. And then just be, again, just like with your spouse or significant other, be transparent with your doctor and your physician. And then you start from there and stop the home remedies. Now, you can use a holistic approaches. You can use natural herbs and things, but you have to first understand where you are. Yeah. Once you understand where you are, now you can properly apply the measures and the supplementations and herbs and the regimen that you may need.
Hey, you know what, Julian? I love that, brother. I absolutely love that. And I think that if you can't be transparent with your doctor or your therapist or your spouse, you know what I mean? It's like what are we doing here, right? Like if you can't be vulnerable with those people who are there to help take care of you, like my therapist will say, like, oh yeah, like tell me what's going on with you. And she always says to me, I can't help you if you don't properly and truthfully tell me what's going on.
Right.
Like, why do you go to the doctor and the doctor say what's going on? You be like, no, I'm good. Like, you wasting my damn time, man.
Right.
Like you just wasted time. So
right.
I love the fact that you emphasize that. Look, you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, Farajii, I think another thing he said that's really important is we talked about deprogramming men, but we as women have to be deprogrammed as well. Because as he mentioned, those moms, and I hear it all the time, shake it off. You're okay. Stop crying and just get up. We have to deprogram our thinking that boys are okay, that they're so tough, that they can take it all because they need us. We are the nurturers. It's our duty. I know for me as a mom, when something happens to my son, it is my duty as his mother to make sure that he is okay, not write him off, but then go cater to my daughter if the same exact thing happens to her. So again, that deprogramming has to happen on both ends, because if boys weren't told that so much as children, they probably would feel differently as men in going to the doctor and going and seeking that help. So we too have to deprogram the way that we respond to boys and men when they tell us that they're sick or that they're not feeling well. So that's really, really important. I wanted to highlight that.
No, that's actually, and a lot of people are checking in, Julian, and talking about that idea of interviewing doctors, because we also know as Black men and Black women that we are misdiagnosed so much compared to white people, Latinos. Like the misdiagnosis of our medical conditions are just totally wrong.
Right.
And so you do have to push back on the system and say, I'm going to go past. I know something is wrong. So for you to tell me I'm good is not sufficient.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree with that. I ascribe to, you got to take matters into your hands. Again, using wisdom though.
Yeah.
Not just, like I said, not just self-diagnosing and self-remedy. Utilize all the resources that are made available to you. Okay? That is your intuition, your gut, and things like that. That is your self-education. That's also education by those that did do practice and have went to institutions of higher learning to get their degrees and things like that. Again, every doctor and physician isn't out to work you over just to get you to get the prescriptions.
Yep.
They're all not like that. But that's up to you. Take that time and identify, find what works for you, who works for you, because it's a partnership. It's going to take, we didn't design these bodies ourselves. That's it. So we work collectively with others that have the know-how too. And then you then still have to fine tune it and customize it for you, because your body may be different from your brother that come from the same mother and father. So there's custom things that you have to do to make your situation work for you.
My man. Hey, Julian, you are always welcome to be back on the show, brother. I love it. I think you're giving some valuable insight and advice. So you're always welcome to be back on the show. We know that we're going to drop some jewels tonight for the 2022 American Diabetes Association Tour de Cure. And then good luck with you tonight. And we look forward to seeing you back on the screen as well, doing some other projects. You putting anything out there that we need to keep our eyes open for, brother?
Oh, there's a lot of things going on right now.
All right, man. Well, I know you ain't got the time today, Julian. So we just gonna have to bring you back.
Yeah, it's very bad.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. Folks, Julia Britano, who is a renowned actor, producer, and CEO, and he's also a rising hip-hop artist as well, checking in to talk about the silent killer, diabetes in America. Let me bring Nira back in here very quickly as we close out the show, because All right. Well, she got to put me on pause.
I'm here.
It's all good. Oh, okay.
I'm here.
No, but I mean,
you know, I'm a part-time mom.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had children. I didn't know that. I just didn't know
some fun times you and I had together. Fun times. Nothing to write home about.
Oh, right, exactly. But we had a great show. I wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in, for folks for tuning in, but more importantly for you for checking in. Is there anything about the show today that really stuck out for you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, Farajii, I love being on the show. Actually, you and I'm gonna just throw this little mustard seed out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody will be like, ooh, and then like you guys can like get on top of Farajii about it. So as you guys can see, like I'm a huge book nerd.
Yeah.
So Farajii and I have been throwing out this idea of us starting a book club where we read one book a month. We split the book into 4 quarters and we discuss a quarter of the book each week. So I'm hoping that we can do that. I already have like the first book that I want us to read, which is The Gilded Ones. So yeah, y'all stay on top of Farajii so we can have a book club because this is the culture. And I feel like we should be highlighting Black authors all up and down this show. It's a new show. So I'm letting Farajii get his feet wet first. But I'm gonna stay on him, y'all, and I hope y'all stay on him too. But we need a book club. Let's get it popping. So.
There it is right there. I love it. And of course, people can tune in to Queen Talks with Nira Muhammad. How can people check out your podcast?
Yeah, you can check out my podcast on iCallHerQueen.com. That's like where you can get all things Nira. But you can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts. The list goes on. Literally any podcast app, you can find Queen Talks with Nira. I talk about manifestation. I talk about relationships. I talk about self-love. I talk about becoming a narcissist because of social media. I talk about a lot of topics that I think are really, really pretty dope. So I hope you guys like what you hear. And if you want me to talk about something else, just shoot me a message on my social media and we can talk about it.
And one of the things I love about your podcast is that you are authentically, unapologetically. No, I'm serious. I'm being honest. Yo, when y'all tune into her podcast, she's authentically, unapologetically Nira Muhammad. So you know what I mean? Like she holds she don't hold back. But you know, it's very passionate. I'm a passionate guy, so you know what I mean, we share that quality, but I love listening to it because it's truth. You know, some people might
it's like a roller coaster. It's like 1 minute you're laughing, next minute like, go hold up, wait a minute. Like,
1 minute you're laughing, next minute you're in your feelings. I get it. I'm cutting her off. I'm gonna let her make her point, but I'm cutting her off after this next point. No, that's all right. That's awesome. Yeah, folks, we're definitely going to try to we're going to get this book club off the ground. And Nira, we look very, very excited and looking forward to having you.
And send books to the show. Like we need authors to send books in. We can read your books. We can like talk about it. I love doing book talks, so I like free books too.
There it is. Tranisha checked in and said, "I look forward to starting a book club. Great idea." Yes. And Donita checked in and said, "Read your poems and writing. Love them." There it is, right there. There we go. All right, folks, that's what it is. Queen Talks with Nira. Make sure y'all check her out. Podcast, writing, iCallHerQueen.com. Nira, thank you so much, dear, for being on the show with me, holding it down with me. I truly appreciate it. And we're going to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, baby daddy. I'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We truly appreciate it. I want to thank our very special guest, Julian Bertano, for checking in, as well as we talked about the situation around the Wells Fargo banking issue. Jules Dunham Howie, thank you. Make sure that you continue to show your support for the Black Star Network. You can go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com for all of the latest information and updates about programs and how you can support this Black-owned media. Check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. You can give your donations via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. Tell your friends and family about it. Download the app on your phone, your mobile devices, and your television, and just bring Black Star wherever you are. We are right there with you. All right. Also, shoot me an email or at Farajii, Farajii at blackstarnetwork.com to give me any type of feedback, ideas, some things that we need to cover within the culture. I would love to hear what you got to say. Thank you so much for all of the great comments and all of the conversations within our chat on YouTube and Facebook. And I would love to hear from you on my social media at Farajii. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And let's continue to make this the #1 source for news, topics, and other cultural information right here at Black Star Network. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 o'clock, it's my big brother Roland Martin with Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here exclusively on the Black Star Network. Peace.